position
Yeah.
able to be recorded.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is going to turn the camera off during this
Да,
speech?
все уже снимают?
Ні.
Аналитики оппозиции на аналитике правительства и на лидере оппозиции.
Выключить на... Господи, аналитики и на первом, и на втором. Выключить камеру.
Чому?
Окей, Паша.
Нет, на аналитике правительства, на лидере оппозиции.
Мені
Господи,
так.
пришло. На аналитике правительства, на лидере оппозиции. Еще.
Там нельзя сказать, вместе с этим командой.
Congratulations all teams on reaching the semi-final of Odessa Open. I'd like to ask for one more round of applause to congratulate all teams. Standing orders will be the same as they have been in the rest of the tournament. Thank you for timing. If anyone wishes to leave, that's obviously fine, but please do so in the gap between speeches rather than during speeches to avoid disrupting speakers. If no one has any questions about standing orders, I would like to ask the Prime Minister to take the floor and present the motion to stand order.
China is a paradox. Many human rights violations, freedom of speech, not full. Corruption is here and there. Many crimes are not reported or taken care of because the government is not able to do it and there's no good measures to take care of this. But still, China, it has very strong economic growth during the last 10, 20 years. The economy has grown the fastest in the world, and it has been made China more and more prosperous. And we in the government think that Chinese people also need their human rights. However, we think that the protests made by the people for greater democratic rule are going to be counterproductive, and we think that having a stable, growing, more prosperous country will lead to good benefits to very different groups like the human rights, but also in the end maybe even the cream of democracy. Okay, why? Three things today. First of all, why the status quo is actually not that bad, okay? And why it's like going to become better. Second, why the protests are not efficient. And then third, how it's going to happen over time. Okay, status quo. We heard from the info slide and from the news that the economy has really grown more and more and more. It has made many poor Chinese people richer and richer, so that they don't have to live on the street. They can afford to eat more than just rice. They can educate their children and improve their life qualities. And this has made the life of many people there better and better. And China is on the track to become a more prosperous country. And throughout this economic growth, also the human rights have become available to Chinese bit by bit. Not every human right. Some of the democratic rights are not there yet. And we think that the protest, the people trying to achieve them, is one of the things that stops them from having these things. And okay, now why the protests are not efficient? We in the government think that the protests are counterproductive. Okay, why? We have seen that if there are protests for democracy, for example, the Tiananmen Square massacre in the early 90s, the Chinese government saw that, okay, there are students who want to fight for more democracy, And what the Chinese government did, they took some militia from different parts of China who didn't speak their dialect and put them there and killed all the students in the training. All the students had demonstrated for the democracy. And this really like shut down the public discussion in China for many. I mean, people didn't have the courage anymore to like say or discuss softly about these political issues. But it also like made the China to like start censor their newspapers more and more. So it's like they put it on the wrong track. Of course, you can say that this will, to some extent, like make international media react. Like, oh, this is the thing that this kind of thing happened in China. We want this kind of thing to do, but it's not going to be that efficient. Okay, many countries don't want to break their trade relations with China because it's so expensive for them. For example, the USA imports majority of its product from China because China has the market of production, so it would hurt China a lot if they try to start some of trade war or something. And also, Chinese internal market has become more and more prosperous during the years. So if the China loses its export capacity, it can actually reproduce quite well, like not completely, but well enough to guarantee the stability of its government to continue work. We know that there are some poor countries whose government can still keep a huge, like very strong control of their nation. For example, North Korea is a very poor country, but they're like the powerful government is able to oppress their people. And this is the big thing. If the China, if people cut their relationships to China will become more close and isolated, and they are more free to actually oppress their people. And this kind of dystopia is something that we want to avoid. Moreover, we think that okay, let's move to the why we, okay, like what else will happen? Like the China will shut down newspapers. I mean, the newspapers were the ones that actually like made people do these kind of things. And this newspaper, okay, Chinese newspapers are not the most free, but they can still have some discussions about the local politics and they can be in the gray area. But if the Chinese government thinks it's problematic, then what happens is that they want to shut them down, and like this kind of protests are a clear sign that this is a very risk to the government who wants to keep their position. Okay, now, why does that score is going up? Okay, first of all, we think that the government has a huge incentive to keep the country stable and keep on keeping it growing, but also because it has brought that the people actually like what has happened there. But second of all, if they want to keep the people happy, no government has been able to take care of the people. I mean, it's able to be in the power if the people don't trust them. And having a stable country is something that keeps the government in their position. If the people don't like the country, there's going to be more unrest all over the country, and these unrests are going to put the government in risk of losing, because the government has an incentive to keep the people happy. Well, how does the democracy take over time? I mean, bit by bit. It takes over because the government realizes that, okay, there are many social issues. If we solve like the biggest one, like the poverty and the starvation and these kind of things in countries, then we have to move to more nuanced issues like LGBT rights or things like that, because people not only care about having an education, but they realize, oh, my brother may be a gay person and I don't want them to be oppressed in my country. I want them to have similar rights in my country. So the interest becomes to have these kind of things, and it means that the government needs to take into account these smaller issues, like the civil rights issues, and they realize that they're not really a threat. I mean, the Chinese government doesn't have a policy that the LGBT people are bad, but these kind of like impacts will become over time. Moreover, to have a stable government, you need to have the trust of the people. And with the trust of the people, the government has to be to some extent representative. It doesn't have to be like a direct democracy or election, but like some municipal person, more like local administration can choose their members, maybe from the party, but from different kind of people, and bit by bit make more loose and loose, so that the democracy will happen over time. First the local things, then maybe the administration chosen by the local things, and maybe at some point when people learn the benefits of democracy, and even the leaders when they learn the benefits of democracy, or think that that's the like fair way to choose the leaders of the party, it will become the China. Also, I mean, having a China with good relations with other countries will build their relationships, and they will learn from other countries and their experiences why the democracy will build them. So, to have a stable China is better than to have an unstable China, and I think this will lead to a better human rights in China.
Okay, so but far we have heard that democracy solves everything and human rights are very important. And yes, we think that, but we also think that if you want to have human rights in a country, you need to have a stable country to have it. So what we stand for here is the status quo right now in China is that their economy is actually growing and they actually have a quite good condition. If you are a normal person in China, your life is quite normal and you can have a quite good and nice life there now. What we are afraid here is that pretty much it's like when you want to change things, what our team thinks here, that democracy, it will come with time. What would happen? So what I'm trying to say here is that with protesting, you actually don't get in those goals that you want to go right now. So what we want is to have a stable country that will still have the possibility to grow, and while the economic is going well and people are happy because of the economics is good, then there is actually space for starting to think from human rights, and then there will come the rights like little by little, like my partner said. There has been like talking about like the rights of LGBT like communities, and this is coming little by little. What happens when people start to protest here is, first of all, it makes the government want to show that they are strong and they still have the power, which means that they start to suppress those people who want to change. And when they start to suppress those people, it means that they will shut down the voices of people who want to speak about things. They might use violence, which makes the country unstable, because then the people are not happy with the country, because there are violence, and when there are violence, that leads to instability of the country. It means that actually we are going further from all these human rights than what we are right now. So pretty much our main, like, what you need is to have a stable country. When you have people protesting about things and when it's suppressed, sometimes with violence, that's not a good environment from like natural growth of democracy in that country that comes over time. Like we have seen some revolution and those kind of things where people protest. So the question is, what happened after protest? Do things actually change? Or do you actually go in a situation that is worse than what we have now? So if we would go in a situation where the country is unstable, that would actually affect on the economy too, then you would have a country that economy doesn't work, it's unstable, and we are not talking about human rights, then you have just people shooting about their opinions, and the real growth doesn't happen. So, yes.
So, excuse me, what is better? More stability and more oppression, or less stability and less oppression?
We want stability. What we are saying right now is that having a country that says that it's democratic doesn't really change things in overnight. Having people protesting and changing things, if they don't have the knowledge what to do, it doesn't change things overnight. So this is not an easy situation. And when you are in a situation that their economy is actually quite good and the normal lives of people are quite good, then there is no point in like making that situation more vulnerable when we know that change doesn't happen quickly and change doesn't happen like easily. So what we want here is a natural change. We want to encourage the stability of the country. We want to encourage the economical growth and have as stable country, like economical-wise as you can. So you actually do have the space for human rights to develop over time. Because change is a thing that doesn't happen in one day. You need time for that. So when you actually have conflict going on in a country, it actually stops like the development for a while. And like we have been talking here, people are not happy when they are hungry. People are not happy when they see that economics are going down. People are not happy when everything is unstable, when the political situation is unstable and the economical situation is unstable. So right now they are in a good situation economically. Their middle class is growing, their life is quite good if you are just a normal citizen. So what we say is the good thing would be to allow things grow over time, not to make protests that might be taken over violently and that might actually suppress those voices that want to see like development in that country. So the question is really what happens after protests. Like things don't always change. People do want to change things, but usually having long time goals is better that are kind of like peaceful and that keeps the countries stable and keeps the economy going than having people protesting and having the country like starting to have political problems. It starts to affect in economy, people start to get more angry, and then we are actually in a situation where this bond of democracy doesn't help you and it doesn't get you in the point where you actually want to be in.
We'd like to hand out to Prime Minister for their speech and invite Deputy Royal Opposition to take the floor.
Can anyone please turn on the camera? I should turn on. Two burdens in this speech. Firstly, protest is efficient, and secondly, on our side of the house, we're going to have a better economy on the long run. So actually, the rebuttal is incorporated. So actually, why the status quo in China? So actually, the government believes, the Chinese government believes that actually the system works okay, that the current social contract is quite okay, and actually every Chinese guy supports the social contract. So, and actually, in case people start protesting, the government will be shown that actually not everybody consents to the social contract, that there is a demand for change, and actually that's why it's designed for the government that system works badly. So actually the second reason why protest is going to work, so actually the international society believes actually the same stuff as the Chinese government. They believe that actually all the Chinese support actually the government, and actually if they learn that there are protests in China, they will understand that not everybody consents to the system, and that there is a demand for change in China, and they will influence actually. It will be legitimate for them to apply some international mechanism of impact and actually to change like what China does, and actually liberal democracies do that, actually help other countries, and actually and they will do the same stuff with China as they will learn that there is a demand for change. So actually protests will work, and actually and they said that protesters will be killed and therefore they're not efficient. So actually first the Chinese government will not kill protesters because that's going to attract even more attention, it will be even more legitimate for other countries, but actually to make some actions, to make some actions. But actually if they, therefore they know that there will be like more attention to the problem, and actually and they do not want that, and actually therefore they're not going to kill people, even if they do, so actually it's work for them. So actually, let's go over to the fact that actually why there is a reason for that. So actually, why the current system actually doesn't work. So actually, we believe that actually democracy is much better than the dictatorship that now in China. Thank you. So actually, why? Like firstly, it's about representation. So actually, that's what my teammate was talking about. So we like the minorities are oppressed, and actually in a dictatorship, like minorities have no impact on actually the government. And actually in a democracy, they can vote. There is a freedom of speech, and actually the government cares about them. And actually, therefore, the oppression of minorities happens on that side of the house and doesn't happen on our side of the house. And that's the first reason why democracy is better than dictatorship. And secondly, that's about participation and decision making. And actually, like. I'm going to prove that first, like democracy lists better decisions, and actually why making decisions is quite important and why it's important exactly in this debate. So, like firstly, okay, there are two kinds of decisions. Like when there are objective criteria and there are no objective criteria of making decisions. So actually, in the first case, with objective criteria, with a democracy, with more participation, actually, there are much more opinions taken into account. There is much more discussion on those topics, and actually, the probability of making the best decision is higher when there are more options to choose. Therefore, in that case, the decisions are better. When there are no objective criteria to identify the best solution, it's like in a democracy we can ask as many subjective opinions of the people, and actually out of the number of subjective opinions we can make the decision with no objective criteria, and actually in the case on the other side of the house it's impossible because the decision is made only by one or like 5 people. So actually I've proven that democracy lists better decisions, and actually why it's important. So actually, yeah, now we're told that okay, China is growing. Yeah, China is growing, but actually their growth has declined, so it is slowing. Actually, they have massive problems with ecology. So maybe when they had democracy, when they decided to build as many plants as possible, many like. If someone could have said that, okay, there may be problems with ecology, and they wouldn't have supported with ecology, but with the dictatorship, actually, they did with the economy, they have problems with ecology. So actually, and why it is crucial this debate? And actually, yeah, on our side of the house, there is better quality of decisions. On the other side of the house, like in a dictatorship, there is a better implementation of all the decisions in practice. And actually, when China rise up, actually, there was no need for a good decision making. So it was quite clear for the government that we should have more plants, more roads, and actually more infrastructure and more foreign investments. You didn't have to be a genius to know that. The only stuff you need is to implement those ideas, and therefore dictatorship in China worked. But now this, and actually moreover, the system changed. Now actually China is quite economically developed, and actually we're told about some hunger. So actually, what kind of hunger? Like actually, if there is enough, China is the second richest country in the world. So actually, they can feed anyone. Actually, on both sides of the house. So actually, that's irrelevant. So actually. Yeah, and now the situation is changed. There is a need to make, actually now China is a world superpower, and actually there is a need for them to make more complex decisions. So like they have to consider like long-term benefits on global market, they have to consider like political implication on global arena, they have to like decide whether they should support asset, the opposition, or stay away from the conflict. They have to consider economic impact. So, and actually, it's quite difficult for one person to make the decision. So, and actually, why? So, actually, those Chinese dictators like don't have the necessary knowledge, information about that. They do not have major in moral, actually, all the Chinese dictators doesn't have 5 majors, like in moral philosophy, in economics, in politics, in history, etc. Actually, and actually, the group of like 5 people that make the decisions do not have like all the necessary education, all the necessary knowledge. So actually, that's what happens on that side of the house. And on our side of the house, when lots of people are engaged in decision making, and actually all the experts that have that knowledge, that have that education, that know like together they know much more information than the Chinese government only by itself. The probability, like the making of that, actually, of making the political, of making that decision is quite better. So actually, and actually, why it's quite relevant? So actually, China is experiencing huge economic decline that we now witness. So their GDP grows slower. International corporations leave their country. Therefore, they have less competition, like less innovations. And actually, China has to now solve those kind of complex problems. And actually, making decisions, making complex decisions is much more important than implementing those decisions, because before implementing a decision, you have to make sure that your decision is quite good, not to make the situation worse. So now we have proved that protests work, and actually that democracy is much more fair. That democracy leads to better decisions. That is crucial in this debate, and actually happens only on our side of the house, and doesn't happen on their side of the house. Therefore, we're proud to oppose.
We'd like to thank the deputy your opposition to their speeches and invite the government members to speak.
It's good that we agree with opposition because we basically have the same clashes in this debate. We believe that this debate is about, first, ensuring high level of life quality by keeping strong China's economy, and secondly, by fostering more freedom to Chinese people. And we believe that both of these goals are achieved by people not protesting. Why do we think so? We will bring you two key points. So first, why it will lead to more people dying and less freedom in the country as a direct farm of a process. And secondly, even if successful, this direction is not good, so that the revolution, democratic changes, will harm people in the long term. But firstly, some rebuttal. What they gave us is that protesting is going to be efficient because government will change and see. Yeah, government knows that it is kind of an oppressive and does not tolerate democracy, like they do not need any change. What they will see is that people stand against them so that they will use violence and even stricter policy in order to keep those protesting shut. And they will use even higher censorship so that people would know about it. So there will be a very strong backlash that is going to be even more violent. Government is not going to suddenly think, yeah, maybe what we did was pretty bad, so now we are going to change. No, this is not going to happen. Secondly, you say that international community will see that people are disagree. Currently, they already know what is going on in China. Like, we all know that there is child labor, bad things happening, minorities oppressed. And secondly, if the international community knows about inequalities and like that stuff happening, its help causes even more destabilization and tumor, like Syria, Tunisia, Ukraine, all of these countries shown that they want democratic change, but the international community cares only about profits, so that it will support the government with even more violent suppression of these democratic people, so that it would ensure only its profits. What you also say is that ethnic minorities are oppressed. Well, firstly, we believe that they are oppressed for a reason, that this oppression is justified, because they stand against the government, and this is something that is intolerable in such country because it leads to a worse world. And secondly, we believe that what those ethnic minorities need is not democracy, because in democracy they are going to be oppressed even more, as I'm going to show you in my substance. But firstly, how is it going to cause direct harms to the economy? Firstly, we have a destabilized country as a result of these people coming on the streets. They are not going to work all the time, they are going to disturb other people working. So that firstly, we have lower life quality as the economy gets out of balance. But secondly, this is more important, a long-term harm, is that we have an unrest in the country that causes the ratings of China to go down, so that investors pull out, so that the most important part of China's economy, that is foreign capital investment, on which the growth and stability of China is built, is endangered. And vital interest of the economy of the country is endangered. As such, the party has not only the incentive, but also in under our model, like the whole right to go and do anything to stabilize those protests, because some people protesting causes other people to be hungry, to have problems, because still like 25% of Chinese children are undernourished, like most of them have huge shortages of rice supply, and the only way to deal with this is to ensure more stable growth, because without this party, without stable growth, and with democratic rights, we would not have this kind of stability, this kind of predictability needed to ensure this economy functioning, and moreover to have investors trust in the economy and pump so much money into the country that the country will. Secondly, what we give you is that it is going to lead to a worse policy by the government. Why? Because currently, the leading party is not a monument. It has different views. Like it has the Falcon wing that is for radical changes. It has the liberal wing. And what this protest gives you is more arguments to those who want to pacify the population. Because you show that those who protest for democratic changes have no better alternative. They are only irresponsible people that go out on the streets and protest. And firstly, this is very stupid because it's not going to be effective because currently the party controls army, is violent as we've seen in the case of Tiananmen, like a couple of decades ago, and also has supplied weapons and a better structure than the protesters, so that it can easily, without any hesitation, kill off these protests, that they will not be effective. What it is going to do afterwards is it is going to ensure that people fear them so much that they are not going to protest anymore. How is it going to be? Revenge policies. So most of those people that are going to protest, that are probably those who are for a civil society, that already did something in the society and could possibly make the change, are going to, not to make the change in the society, but are going to go to jail instead and have even less policy. So, in terms of bringing more democracy, your model is actually counterproductive, and it is even bad because it causes the government to be even more radical, and this is even bad for the economy in our term. So these protests are absolutely bad. Okay, why do we care about economic growth? What it's also going to bring is that it's going to bring worse negotiating position in terms of government negotiating with corporations, so that we will have more tax exemptions needed for the corporations to come to the country, which as such should be compensated by even more cheap labor of the population, so that the population is going to be exploited even more. Okay, but why is this direction not good? Yeah, question.
So actually, have you just described us Northern Korea or China with all the oppression and etc.?
Yeah, I've just described China. That is how it is. Sorry, this is our one. Okay, even if this revolution is going to be successful, democracy is very bad for China. Why? Firstly, who is going to come to power? They have no structures, no leaders outside the government. People have no education and no experience in voting, so that they are probably going to use democratic structures in not a good way. So they are not going to choose responsible leaders. They are going to choose Chinese Donald Trump, which is going to oppress minorities even more, because in democracy it's not like minorities rule, it's the majority that has the vote and can oppress anybody, basically. We will have foreign power intervention, if you think that it's going to happen, that is going to make the country dependent on other capital and as such more prone to exploitation of children and workers. And thirdly, what we have is that we will not have effective economic mechanism to stop huge corporations from lobbying. Why? Because the only tool that we are going to sell in that moment is cheap labor. And what the government currently does is that it tries, by public funding, to switch the economy to a more developed one, so a one in which you can compete not only with cheap labor, but also by the quality, by technology, by developing Xiaomi, new startups, like huge corporations. This is only what is possible. This transition from a developing country to a more economically developed is only possible by this government. Why is it so important? Because currently China is in a very bad position, because there are huge inequalities in the country. People are very poor, and they need this economic growth to first move to the position in which basic human rights are ensured, and then think about democracy. Thank you.
We'd like to thank the member of their speech and invite the member of opposition to take.
So thank you for this speech, and I will start from the end. Firstly, a little bit about the rebuttal, and then about our extension and the opposition side. First of all, the second argument, the closing argument, is talking about us, about the extreme case, the case about the revolution, the case when we changed the government, and they understand the more democratic rights is just the right to vote, not to get them more information, not to give your opinion on the streets, not to discuss some things on TV, etc., etc. They're just talking about the voting. We will talk about the more the rights that the China needs at the moment. And if we are talking about the protest, they shows us the case that some additional rights is equal the full democracy in China. We do not believe then after these protests, we will have the United States democracy in China. But we think that at the moment, China needs more democracy in the situation that it describes at the moment. First thing, second argument, different views, different parties, etc., etc. If we have the control, if we have the party which doesn't change for a long time, we have a great historical cases when we have the not successful economics, like USSR, like Cuba, etc., etc. When we saw that people didn't have the right to choose, that people haven't tried to change some things, but in Saudi we give them some more democratic rights, maybe it will be better, but I explain my extension. And our government presumed that at the moment
Thank you for the forum panel. So we here now want to have the China stable, and we understand that the economic stability is not enough for having the whole country instability, because stability of a state depends on the stability at all else within this country, such as economic, politics, social, and that is why we believe that not pushing for democracy anymore within the country will lead to collapse and worsening of the situation. We hear from the government side that in the first one, they will not have more democracy, that people are going to be killed, like really extreme case that is actually will worsen the situation in the economy. But they also state that such economic situation, such economic development will lead to the better conditions in the country. Well, actually, we have that decades of such economic growth, and we still have the greatest amount of poor in the country. So probably the situation is not changing for them, and that is why we need to hear that to people to know how to change, to have them to change that situation. On our side, we have two cases how it actually can work, and that is why we want to push for more democracy. First of all, we are not talking about the full democracy the government tries to put on our side. We are talking about the small changes in the democracy situation. We're talking about that we need more democratic rights, not the full that. We're not talking about the USA democracy in China, but we want to have like more information freedom. We want to have more freedom of opinions, more freedom for sharing the thoughts within the country. That is why we need to hear people to know what actually we want to change. Firstly, if the government side said that in this current situation they like live okay, probably they will not protest, but we can see in the status quo that they are not okay, and that is why that protest can actually happen. So why do we believe that protest should happen? Why we believe they should have the right to protest? Firstly, as we stated, the state is not only about the economic development. We see also social level, we see also politics level. In China, we now have that economic sustainable development, but if it fails, there will be no other instrument to maintain the state. So in case the economy of China will fail, we have no social stable situation or no political stable situation to have the country going for development in that case. So because of that, we need to bring that stability in other levels to have the country developing, to have it, to have the population of the country that happy that government who also wants to have that.
But also we say that shutting down but also we have shutting down of the population, and in that shutting down there will be social tension rising, and that is why we believe that that will cause the revolution. Like if poors are not going lower in that economic growth that they have now, if having that protest shut down, if having no possibility to be heard, if having no possibility to change anything in their situation, the social tension is going to grow, is going to increase, and that is why when the majority of the country cannot have the right to explain what actually they see wrong, to explain information about their situations around them. They cannot deliver their opinions to government, and they have no right to change something. The revolution is really likely to appear in that case. If people do not agree, they will go for the bigger changes. That is why they will go for a bigger collapse of their situation. That is why we believe that we need that dialogue between the government and the population of the China. Then that is why we will not have the situation explode. We will take it step by step so that the situation on that social level can also be changed. Yes.
Stopping economic growth stops the benefits that poor in China received during recent years as a result of this growth, so that they got public employment and higher social mobility programs as a result of better education and better working conditions.
We also have other cases like USA or the EU having actually human rights and democracies in that, and their countries are also really successful in their development. So we believe that that will be also possible in that country as well. So if we have such a development, if we have the development only in one sphere of the country's development, we cannot say that the countries will be stable for any long-term period. That is why we need to bring that stability on other levels, so that the country will not collapse in that economic sphere will go lower. That is why, and on the other hand, we do not want the revolution within the country. We do not want that social level collapses in such way. We want to have the dialogue between the population and the country, going step by step to change the situation of the poor, to have their voices heard by the government. We do not believe in that extreme case that will happen, and we need that protest from the population to actually gain the right to be some driver of the changes within the country as well. Thank you.
Да мне все говорят, задолбали.
If we have in China just one party with one view, it's equal to stability. But we saw that the world has changed, but we saw that the world, especially the democratic world with which the China has some economic conditions, etc., has even a democratic way when we could change something, when we could hear people from our country, when people had even the small possibility to have an influence on the policy of the country, and these cases are better. Let's remember the United States. The country was organized at the state of full freedom. What does it mean? It means that every person in this country could be here, every person in this country could be elected, every person in this country could, I don't know, organize a business, whatever. What we see in China, we are not talking about the full democracy in China, but what we are talking about that in their culture, if we give them some rights, example, to share more information, to read the newspapers, not to close the Google to understand how the economics outside the China work, we fully believe that it could have a better influence on the government when such abuse would be heard from the people that live inside this country. Why? Because we see outside of this country the successful cases of all over the world when the parties, even the one party hear the people inside this country. Why is it important for the China at the moment? We saw that a lot of cases in the history when was the one party, Germany, USSR, doesn't matter. When people didn't have enough rights, some people, because we see the privileged groups in the China, not all the people are okay in China, not all the people, mostly 60% of people are under the line of poor man, and this economic growth, what we are talking about, is not so stable at the moment. We're just talking about the privileged groups in China. What does it mean? If we don't give them the right to explain this information to the government, to give some opinions to the government, to give some change to protest on the policy of the government and changing something inside the country. What we would see in this case, we would see some revolution when the people have become poorer and poorer because the China economics is growing for the last 50 years. The population of the China is also growing for the last 50 years. And the poorest of the China is also the same as the 50 years ago. What we see, the economy is growing, but the people who are living in this country are not having such an economic growth. So when we will have some doubts, I don't know, when the people wouldn't be agree with that. In this case, we will have the revolution. In this case, we are really will be great. I don't know. It's really dangerous for the modern economy because the China one of the biggest players in it. But why we as the democratic, I believe the democratic Western countries should suggest these protests? Because we fully believe that the main responsibility of the state not only in economic growth, not only to give some money for the people. Why? Because when those money will yes, will disappear, it will be really big collapse for the people who are living in this country. Because when this economic growth will stop, why could it stop? Because we have just one party, one party who make the decision inside this country. And if this economic growth would stop, we will have the collapse. But we would truly believe that the main responsibility of the state, not only in economic growth, but to give the education to the people, but to give the freedom of speech to the people, to grow people not only by the money, but to grow them as the persons. That's why we as the Western states, I fully believe this protest should be in the China. Because of these three things, we are very proud to oppose.
Она вышла? Да.